Welcome to the Unleashed Life, a financial empowerment and lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Baker. After nearly 3 decades in corporate America, I took a leap of faith to pursue full-time entrepreneurship, realizing that while we can always get another title, we don't get another chance to create the life we truly desire. In each episode, we'll explore what it truly means to live unleashed, going beyond traditional finance advice to help you break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivate a mindset of abundance and possibility, align your financial decisions with your personal values and lifestyle goals, and embrace authenticity in both your career and personal life. Whether you are seeking financial wisdom, entrepreneurial insights, or inspiration to live boldly, you're in the right place. Redefine success on your terms and join a community of women who refuse to dim their light. It is time to live the unleashed life. Today we have the privilege of speaking with Stephanie McNeal, a woman whose journey embodies the very essence of living unleashed. Stephanie's story is one of profound transformation from a 24-year marriage marked by oppression to a life of self-discovery, faith, and redemption. Her courage in facing the challenges of becoming an empty nester, which I can't wait to talk about, and the commitment of self-love and acceptance are truly inspiring. So let's dive into Stephanie's remarkable journey of unleashing her true self. So let's start with telling us a little bit about you, Stephanie. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Oh man, where do I start? Well, I am a daughter still because I'm a daughter of the King. I'm a mother of 4 adult children, and I am a grandmommy for the first time, and now I have a grand dog.
Oh, congratulations. Okay.
So I was an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur, and my newest role is executive producer because I just produced my first documentary film short. So I was told, don't say you're aspiring, say that you are.
You are.
So I did it, and it premiered in June.
Congratulations.
But my favorite role is really to be mom.
Yes, that's beautiful. What a blessing.
But I am an entrepreneur, and I recently took a job. So there's a lot going on.
Yes, all the right things. You carry it all very well. And I'm really excited just to talk about this journey. There's a lot going on, but I feel that there's so much about this unleashed life. There's so much about breaking free. And I want to start from how we arrived at this moment. So we're going to go back to your journey of, being in this long, challenging, your challenging marriage. But there was a pivotal moment where you discovered that it was time to unleash yourself from that situation. You want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah. The pivotal moment was a series of events.
Yeah.
And it reminded me who I am. Okay, so that I am is multi-dimensional.
That's right.
I remembered God, right? But I remembered who I am. And it's so interesting how a lot of times when people die, something else lives, right? Mm-hmm. So my mother had Alzheimer's, and so we had just gone through a year because of her disease of estrangement, and I'm an only child, so it was devastating.
Of course.
And so I went to Arkansas, which is where I'm from. I went back to Arkansas to pick her up, and it just so happened to be the funeral of a guy who I say is the love of my life in Arkansas. It was the same weekend. And so I went to that funeral and remembered, right? Because like I've been living here in Florida for a long time, but when I go back home, there's no place like home, right?
That's right.
And when I go home, it helps me to reconnect with who I am. And so I went to this funeral and I remembered this guy, and I remembered how much he loved me and how much I was loved. But because it wasn't so in the marriage I was in, or at least I didn't feel like I was, right? And on the way to the grave site, I happened to talk to my high school sweetheart. And I actually broke up with him to be with that guy, And he was like, "Oh, you're at his funeral, right?" And he was like, "We were supposed to get married and all that." And again, I remembered I was loved.
Right.
And so when I came home and had that experience of remembering who I am, that was it. That was the thing that made me decide that it's over and I'm not going to live like this anymore.
Wow. So you go back to Arkansas, very painful situation. I love what you said. Sometimes something has to end for something new to begin. I'm paraphrasing, but that we forget that sometimes. But most importantly, just remembering who you are. We sometimes lose it. We give so much. You name all the things that you are for others, but you bring it back to self and who you are, and making every good thing that we do. Once we make a decision, we just say, we're not doing that anymore.
Yep.
So you make this decision to walk away from something else to step back into self, right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
And you, as we've been having the conversations, you talk a lot about faith. And when you step out into something, especially uncertainty, 24 years is a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
That's a long time. Yeah. I'm sure that's not easy to walk away from.
Yeah.
And especially when you're so attached to it. So faith, stepping out on faith, and that plays a significant role in your journey.
Absolutely.
So can you share with us how that spiritual life has guided you in unleashing yourself not from the situation, but you really unleash your potential in the face of a potential challenge of walking away?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was through the pain of that relationship that I discovered my faith.
Wow.
Right. And it was because of my faith that I stayed in that situation. Not that I thought that because I was faithful and because I was, there's promises in the word, that the husband can be, saved by the wife. And I'm like, there's a lot of responsibility. Like, Lord, do you know who I'm married to? Like,
you see all.
Do you see? Every move that I made was because of faith. Right. I stayed there a lot because of the children. That's right. Because I grew up with my father and I wanted my children to grow up with their fathers. But also he was a very active father. And to be honest, I was like, how am I going to take care of 4 kids?
Yeah.
That's a real thing. That was real. And because he was so involved and hands-on. But like I said, God gives us free will.
Amen.
And I saw that despite all of my years of fasting, praying, believing, crying, hoping. I mean, all of this stuff, and nothing was changing. And it was sad that a lot of people in the faith encouraged me to stay in something that was abusive.
Wow. Yeah.
And that is a stain, I believe, on the faith that, I didn't have the wisdom to navigate the word the way that may have brought an outcome.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So faith is just a part of who I am. It's my relationship with God is everything. And I don't even know how. You said how? I don't even know the question now. You
know,
it's just a part of who I am.
And that's, I mean, that I want to stay with that for a moment, because that can be kind of a battlefield, an internal struggle, right? You have your faith, and what does the church say about marriage? Mm-hmm. And then recognizing that you're walking away, you have a very involved father, right? Sometimes people don't have that, right? And they're walking away from everything, but you're not being filled, and you're also dealing with so much. So how is that internal struggle? Because there's someone out here that is listening to this, that is dealing with that struggle. And it feels like such a stain sometimes when we hear divorce, or when you walk away from so much history, right? Mm-hmm. You'll say, well, who knows me? We were having a conversation like, who knows me better, right? Mm-hmm. What would you say? I mean, how did you navigate that internal struggle? Was it faith?
It was really, really hard. But you know what? If I really knew how to, and I don't want to say work the word, but if you really know what the word says, okay. So let's just say in a conflict, right? The Bible tells us how to resolve conflict. So the Bible says, number one, you go to that person and that person only. Right. If they will not hear you, you go and you take 2 witnesses, and you come and you confront them again. And if they don't, then you bring them before the church. And if they don't, you banish them. Okay. So that's a principle.
Step by step.
That's a principle, right?
Discussion, arbitration, jury.
Exactly.
Be gone.
So I just didn't get the memo, right? Like, maybe if I had enforced my boundaries, it wouldn't have gotten so rogue.
Yeah.
Like, if the first time that something happened like that caused a divorce, if I had dealt with it in a serious way the first time, right, rather than listening to people say, oh, it just happened one time. No, if it happened one time, there's a reason.
Yes.
Okay. No one just wakes up and does this.
Right.
Right. So.
And sometimes we see in people what we want to see, and we believe what we want to believe.
Yeah.
So, how many times do you see like red flags can be thrown at a person about a person, but we see what we want to see.
Yeah.
And even more so, I think, and this is just, whether it's romantic relationships, personal relationships, we see who we want to see. And sometimes people put on really good facades. They're really good about who they want other people to see. And you could get caught up in that. So, how did you navigate that? Not just for yourself, but you have 4 children. Mm-hmm. How did you navigate that with your 4 children?
I didn't navigate it. Mm-hmm. Okay. It was carnage. It was they were collateral damage. And I spend my life now trying to. Well, I've done all that I can do. Right. I have asked for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I have led a different life. I have healed and am healing. And my life is a testimony now.
Right.
And there was time, I had those times of feeling guilty and condemnation, all that. But listen, I did everything that I could and rest to try to make up for it. But to me, the way that I make up for it now is to live a good life.
Right.
Is to, walk uprightly before God, to live a moral life. Now, I'm still not perfect.
Yeah. We say progress over perfection.
Yeah.
How about that?
I'm not perfect, but I've made a lot. I am a different person.
Yeah. And that transformation is very powerful. And oftentimes when we know better, we can do better. And a marriage is between 2 people. And I think sometimes, you're trying to explain on why you made a decision, but that was your decision to make. You were unleashing yourself to become the woman that you are today.
Yes.
And now your children are adults. Mm-hmm. They are grown. And you talked about that journey. And on top of you going through the journey from getting divorced to dealing with the children, you're also becoming an empty nester. So you lose the time that you have them physically in the house. I'm also an empty nester. And that can be a really difficult transition. So, and you talked about just in general, your transformation. But how did you transform during that period? Because that can be a very lonely time, but it's also an opportunity for growth. You talk about being unleashed. Mm-hmm. There's a period of self-discovery in that. How did you manage it?
So when you were talking before, the reason I was able to rest is because my baby girl, when she was a senior in high school, she probably some teacher told her to do it, but nonetheless, she did it. She wrote a letter to me, and the title of it was My Hero. And she talked about all the things that I taught her.
They're always watching.
And it was all of those lessons. And I didn't sit down and write down and say, I want to teach my kids these things. But everything that I had in my heart that I wanted to teach them, she told me she learned. Right?
That's powerful.
That's one thing. And then my oldest, he was going through a difficult time in his life at one time. And he was saying, and I was feeling bad about, because I never got the confirmation from him or either the boys. And he said, Ma, don't you know the reason I do that is because of you? You know what I mean? So with that, I said, I'm free.
Yes.
I am free and nobody's going to hold me hostage. So you say empty nest, I say empty next.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to say empty next now. Tell me more about that.
So there's another story.
Mm-hmm. I love
it. I have all these stories. So, I had these two girls, right? So
your older boys.
So I have two boys and two girls. Two boys are older, the two girls are younger. And then so when I separated, it was my mom who we were caring for 24 hours a day with Alzheimer's, my two daughters, and the dog, Charlie. So my mother had passed away before COVID. And so the girls, we literally had just moved into a new house.
Wow.
In March. My mother passed away in June.
Oh, wow.
It was like
lots of change.
She got us into that house and she was like, I'm out of here. Yeah, good.
You're good.
So my plan was, one girl was going to graduate the next year, and the next year the other girl was going to graduate, and then it was going to be Charlie and the dog. I mean, Charlie, the dog, and me.
That's right.
Well, after my mom passed away, about maybe 6-7 months later, the dog suddenly died.
No.
And when I tell you that triggered the deepest grief in all of us.
That's hard. Yes. That is right? Very hard. Yes.
All of us. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was mad at God because this was not the plan.
Right.
The plan was the girl was going to graduate, the next girl, and it was going to be Charlie and me.
That's right.
But then it's like, no, you're going to deal with this grief right now. You're going to deal with this loneliness right now. And so when you say, I think it's a process.
Yes.
So I went through this process of healing, of grieving, of dealing with and accepting me and who I am.
Right.
And so when the last girl graduated, that's why I called it the empty next. And all of this came after I wrote my book as well, because I thought once I wrote the book, because my book is called Free to Love, How Forgiveness Can Heal You from Broken Pieces to Masterpiece, PACE, right?
I love.
So I thought once I forgive,
right,
then I'm going to be free. Well, guess what?
Guess what?
started another process. And so what I'm learning is that, or what I learned and am learning, is that it's not just about forgiveness. It's about being free to love. And that's a continuous process.
And that's a continuous process. And I like that you say being free to love, but I really like the masterpiece, because you're always searching, I guess, like some call it Zen moments. And sometimes life shakes us up. Mm-hmm. And we don't always know the why. Mm-hmm. We don't always have the answers. And you said you are angry and you're going through this healing journey. You're going through the trauma, grief. We don't talk enough about grief. That could be a whole episode about grief. Mm-hmm. That transition from the children just being your world to empty next, with all this going on. But at the end of the day, there's forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. And that forgiveness is of self, freeing yourself and forgiving yourself. So I want to talk more about that, because when you talk about forgiveness, it's as if it's a stepping stone to liberation, mm-hmm. right? It's that freed piece. Can you elaborate on that? Because sometimes we hold trauma, we hold it, and we don't forgive ourselves for whatever. We can't change the past, but we don't forgive ourselves or others, right? So how does that contribute? Because you're really unleashing yourself when you can forgive. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit and elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I was a forgiveness coach for 10 years.
Wow.
And I discovered at the end of that, because I wasn't very successful at it.
So I'm a forgiveness coach, but you are.
But I was bitter.
Yeah, but I was like, but you're not forgiving other people.
Yeah, how you do that? How you sell that?
Jay, listen,
Dr.
just
Renée.
tell them, just say, you know what? Yeah. Don't do what I say. Just do what I tell you, but not what I do.
Yeah. So, but the thing about it was, I didn't do it on purpose, right? And what I realized looking back on it, number one, I think that was the work that God wanted me to do, but also you forgive on levels.
Yes. I don't think people realize that we hold on. We sometimes don't even realize that we're not forgiving, or the things that we choose to hold. It could be so random. Yeah. But there's levels to it. We don't talk enough about that. So
I don't think we talk about that at all.
Yeah, we don't.
People think that once I forgive, it's a one-time thing. Listen,
like I forgive
on
you.
the way here, I had a call from my former husband that I didn't answer because I already know what it's about, because we still have these children that we're co-parenting.
That's right.
But I have forgiven him, right? And I have decided that I'm going to live in peace. But you will get triggered.
I was going to say, those triggers pop up.
You will get triggered, right? So people want to say, oh, that's one of my triggers. I think we need to go towards triggers, because triggers are indicators.
Yes. That you're not healed or forgiven.
There's healing that still needs to take place. I still have things it's not nearly, because I understand.
Yeah, now you know.
You know what I mean? I have compassion for him now, because I know that there's some things that he needs to deal with in his life. Right. It's not for me to, it's not for me to, but here it is. We heal on levels. Right. And you know what? If we experience the fullness of all the things that's ever happened to us, we wouldn't be sane. Right? So it's like you forgive and you heal, and you forgive and you heal, you forgive and you heal. It's like peeling the layers of an onion.
But can we talk about this, Stephanie? Sometimes people are they do things, and there's this quote that says, it's not what people do, but how you respond to it. And yes, as you're saying, I was like, I might have some triggers. I might need a forgiveness coach. But there are things that happen, or people just do things. But that's hard, I think, to say, you know what, this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with you, because people's stuff impacts you. They get their crap on you.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? What's advice?
It's not easy. Right? It's not easy.
Pointers.
But you have to get to a maturity level that you understand that most of the times the things that people are going through have to do with them.
Right. Right.
I mean,
they're regurgitating their crap on you.
Yeah, and they're projecting it on you. And so you just have to get to a level of awareness of yourself, being comfortable with who you are, like with all of your stuff.
Right. This is very good for today for a reason, but let me just tell you, that's profound, because I know that there are listeners who are going to hear this, who don't recognize those triggers, who are dealing with things, including me, who are dealing with situations and people and working past things that have nothing to do with you. But it's had an impact on you.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
You just have to be comfortable with who you are. You gotta
more than just saying it. Because people say it, but this is deep work.
Yeah,
this is some deep work. This is some deep work.
But it's so worth it. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm getting to the point that, and even in my struggles, even when I mess up, I look at myself, like literally, I look at myself, I'll say, you messed up. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. But girl, I love you.
Yeah, despite flaws and all.
I love me.
Right.
And you know what? Too bad you don't. If you do,
that's
you know what I mean?
You're lost.
Like, I'm good. Right. I'm good with me. Do I like all the things that I do? No. Do I like all the things that I say? No. But I'm still okay with me.
Right.
Is that a song? It's well on my soul.
It's well on my soul. Yes. And I can't sing,
and
but I
walk out of here and get triggered.
Yes. But that's the thing.
I will walk right out of here and get triggered.
It's people stuff, right? So I just want to talk about this because you can be well with your soul. You know what? You're like, I forgive me. I know who I am. I know what I bring. I know who I am. When no one's watching, I know who I am. And then there are humans and situations. And for some people, it could be something as slight as somebody cutting you off. That has nothing to do with you. And then there are people, I'll just say there are individuals who pray, right? Because they have their stuff and then they pray on you. And whether it's in the workplace, right? I can go through a whole workplace trauma thing, but I will not. Yes. I will not, but I can. Because of the stuff, people's stuff shows up. And you can be well in your soul. You're like, you know what? Despite it all, I am a good person. I know who I am. But if one more person come up in here, if we just keep it real and get a little bit unleashed, how do you deal with the other side? What do you tell the folks who are just trying to manage other people's stuff? Because it's all coming at you.
Well, I think it's important to have a village. Throughout this time, I've had coaches, I've had therapists, I've had pastors, I've gone to conferences, I've gone to retreats. I mean, we need all. I read, I pray, I fall before God, I cuss up there, have some drinks sometimes. You know what I mean?
That's sometimes. Right. That's real.
But the other thing though too is knowing that God loves me.
Right.
Now that's been the game changer for me. And knowing that God loves them too.
Despite them being triggers.
Because who knows what they're going through.
Yeah. So that empathy piece that you speak about, right? Yeah. And just saying, you know what? There's a song about this too. I just can't think of it right now. Just like, I think it's Lauryn Hill. Like, please forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. Right? There's songs, right? Jesus said that on the cross, right? So forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. And kind of setting those boundaries, right? That you really have to unleash yourself from people's stuff because you don't even know. Sometimes way before you meet a person, they have had a lifetime of stuff and they might wear it well. And I always say, thank God we don't look like what we've been through, but that's good and bad. Mm-hmm. So they might wear it well. They might say all the right things, but they still have their crap with them. Mm-hmm. And we have to learn how to, one, forgive ourselves when we allow that to happen to us, forgive ourselves, but also the empathy. And you say it, I mean, I can feel, whenever I'm around you, I can feel that empathy. It exudes from you. Like your energy, your spirit is so positive. It comes through you. So I'm going to throw some out, just get it out there for people because you have that with you. And so you can tell that you've done the work and that it helps. But I could spend all day talking about this. But I do want to talk about how, you've gone on this journey and you've confronted fears. You've embraced the unknown, including that forgiveness. But what advice would you give to the listeners who are standing at this place of having this major life change, but they're hesitant to take the leap? And sometimes the leap is just asking for what they need.
I would say, and I've said it earlier in so many ways, don't be afraid of who you are. Right. Most of us are more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, but we hold ourselves back to make other people feel comfortable. We don't do because of what somebody might say. I've been a trailblazer my whole life, and every time I try to get away from it, it drops in my lap. Yes. You know what I mean?
Just keeps pulling you back.
So I would say do the work that you need to do to unpack whatever it is. And a lot of it happened in our childhood.
Yes.
A lot of it happened in our childhood. And, if you have dreams, if you have hope, just do it. Okay. Right. Do whatever it is that you need. Like if you need a coach, they have go to YouTube, right. They have books, go to Amazon.com. I didn't know how to create a film, but I learned and taught myself how to do it. And as a result of that, people came alongside me to help me. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say you don't know.
Right.
So many people are so afraid of what they don't know. See, here's the thing with me. The things that I know them.
That's right.
And the things that I don't know, I'm not afraid to ask you.
Right.
Or ask someone. These successful people, super successful people, they did not become that way by themselves.
Hello.
And I don't know where it is in our culture, especially our culture.
That's real.
That we don't ask for help. And then the other thing is that question makes me think about like the relationship with God and the things that he has promised us, right? And I visualize like walking into a dark house, right? So you're standing at the door, right? And you're walking into a dark house. And as you walk through this house, different doors are going to open as you walk through them. But if you stand at the door, the doors aren't going to open.
Right.
You have to have the experience. You have to actually do it. Now, after you've done it, you can course correct. You can, debrief. You can start over more intelligently, but don't be afraid to just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And if you can't, get help.
And I love that you're saying that, oftentimes we just stand stuck in our fears and we don't know what's ahead, especially if we're just planted on what feels safe. And I know when I made the transition to leave, I'll talk about it in a work context, but when I made the decision to walk away from my career, and I always say I didn't walk away. I walked towards what it is that I want to do. I knew that we don't get more time, but I can get another title. There's no shortage of titles. There's no shortage of titles. And I can live and work anywhere on this planet, but there's no shortage of titles. But I didn't get more time to do the thing that was keeping me up at night. And I was terrified to leave. I was terrified what would people say. I was terrified of losing the glory. I wasn't even worried about the paycheck as much as I was worried about what other people would say. And, there was a lot of chatter and a lot of rumors as to why, but not one time I said, what if I just chose me this time? What if I just chose me? And that's what it was. And it was asking for help and falling down and getting up. But the best advice that I heard was to ask for what you need. And sometimes it is very frightening to, people thought, oh, you have a doctorate, or you've done all this stuff, or you've had all these life experiences, I don't know. And I don't even always know what I don't know. So I think that is really profound, to take the step. And indifference requires action. When I don't know, I move, I talk, I read, I write, I call. Exactly. And I think that that's so important, no matter what it is that you're going through, like through the fire, just go through it and keep going, because we can't get to the light if we stand in our darkness. Yeah. And that can be relatable to so many different things, any major life change, whether or not we know about it, or because some things are out of our control, and the things that we pursue. But I love what you say about just keep going, ask, take action. Yeah. And it's get better every day, and it becomes a transformation. And that's what you have gone through. You didn't know back then when you made the decision that you would be here now, healed, just fabulously healed, forgiving, and on a journey of levels, not having those same triggers. So as you look back on your own transformation, Stephanie, what would you say what does living a life unleashed mean to you now, as you continue to embrace this concept every day in your daily life? Because it is step by step.
Living unleashed to me means living my purpose, right? Back when I found out my purpose, that I'm a minister of reconciliation. And this is a part that I wouldn't say out loud, call to the masses.
Say it again.
I'm a minister of reconciliation, call to the masses.
Right.
So at first I thought it was forgiveness coach. And then I thought it was helping people heal through telling their stories. And then I thought it's helping people heal through film, and who knows next. So, but what has kept me going is purpose. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that God is always, he's doing a new thing. He's always doing something new. Like all of these people think that life with God is boring. I've had the most fun I've had in my life. Now it's been terrifying and scary and whatever, but he's always been there.
Yes.
He's always provided. He's always loved. He's always brought me around and surrounded me with good people.
Amen to that.
And so to me, living unleashed is the freedom to live your purpose. And your purpose to me is constantly evolving. Because nothing is constant but change.
That's right.
And so who knows where I'll be, this time next year. But I'll tell you, when I get depressed, when I'm not doing anything, when I'm paralyzed by fear.
Yes. And we just sit in it. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how much of a baddie you are. We have all been in that place where I feel it in my stomach, and I'm just paralyzed. And I'm like, get up, girl, get up. You have to move. And even if that's just going for a walk,
yep.
They talking about, you lost a lot of weight because I've been stressed. I've been walking a lot. You got to get up and get out. But paralyzed by fear, that will shut you down.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
So Stephanie, you have shared so much, and you have given us so many tips to think about, how to just move through life's transitions. But one thing that you said that I do want to talk about before we end is stepping into your power and your purpose. What would you recommend to people who some people will say, I don't even know my purpose?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
You know what? I went back to the earliest thing that I remember doing. Like a lot of things that we used to do as a kid are things that we like, that those are the moments of who we really are and what we truly enjoy.
Freedom.
And so what was the question?
Yeah, but what would you tell folks who say, I don't know my purpose?
Yeah. You know what? I think you have clues. I think that's an excuse.
Starts as a whisper.
Yeah.
Ignore it.
I think that you probably have gotten clues about it. Ask your friends, ask your family, the people that know you the best. What do they see? Because a lot of times you can't see the forest for the trees.
Sure.
Right. And I took a spiritual development course. It's called Identity and Destiny, and it literally changed my life. I think that every person on earth should take it, should go through it. You can find it on Amazon. Identity and Destiny.
Okay. Noted. Put that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. So that's what changed my life.
And I like that you said, listen, everybody has a purpose, right? Sometimes we just don't listen to it. I say prayers when we ask God, meditation, and sometimes we have to be still so we can hear. Mm-hmm. And we know, even if you ask a bunch of people, you're just looking for confirmation.
Yeah. You know. A lot of times we're afraid. And then sometimes people think that if it's not something grandiose or whatever, or some people, their purpose may be just to raise children, not just, but who knows what child you're raising. Did Barack Obama's mom know that she was raising Barack Obama? You know what I mean? Like, you never know how what it is that you're called to do fits into the story that God is weaving for your life.
Right. And stay in your lane. You can't live anybody else's purpose.
Stay in your lane.
This is I would not be a good forgiveness coach. I would not.
I wasn't either.
But it is really identifying that sometimes you have to not look to the right and to the left. You got to look ahead. You got to stay grounded in who you are. Start inward, work your way out. Yeah. Right. So I think you shared so much, Stephanie, when you talk about your journey and from what felt like oppression to this liberation. I can feel that freedom, and going from despair and having hope. That's such a powerful testament to the human spirit and our resilience. And your story reminds us that, one, it's never too late to break free from the chains that bind us and to embrace a life of authenticity and of purpose. That's the word of the day, purpose. So if to our listeners, if they want to get in touch with you or they want to learn more about your journey and your film, how can they do that?
Everything can be found on freed2love.com, FREED, 2love.com. So
thank you so much. I could talk to you. I do talk to you, but I could talk to you. You offer so much as you share your purpose. I feel inspired. I'm going to work on those triggers, work on my forgiveness and walk through them. And to our listeners, stories like Stephanie's and this journey really shows us that living unleashed often requires courage, faith, and a willingness to confront our deepest fears. As you heard Stephanie say, go towards them. But as we've heard today, the rewards of being brave are immeasurable. So thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you for taking the time out Thank you for sharing your inspirational story with us. You've really shown us that the best is truly yet to come when we have the courage to unleash our true selves and walk in our purpose. So until next time, be great, shine bright, and keep living life unleashed. Thank you for joining us on The Unleashed Life. I hope today's episode has inspired you to break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivating a mindset of abundance and possibility. Remember, living unleashed means aligning your financial decisions with your personal values and embracing authenticity in both your career and personal life. It's about progress, not perfection, as we journey towards financial empowerment and the lifestyle we truly deserve. If you found today's episode to be of value, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. Your support helps us reach more women ready to unleash their potential. And don't miss out on exclusive content and insights by signing up for our monthly newsletter at reneebaker.com. It's packed with actionable tips to help you continue your unleashed journey between episodes. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and join our vibrant online community to share your own unleashed moments and connect with like-minded individuals. Until next time, keep breaking barriers, embrace your beautiful, authentic self, and live life unleashed. Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your financial story and step into your power with purpose. As always, be great, and the best is yet to come.